Our game is called FOODIE. It is based in a food court with the 5 major fast food franchises known as KFC, McDonald's, Burger King, Red Rooster and Taco Bell. In the food court, a murder has occurred. In our game, everyone has to try and figure out who the killer is. This is done by questioning all suspects and witnesses playing in the game, trying to figure out who the killer in the food court is. Our game is based around the 3 focus points of murder, mystery and food. Our game is intended for the ages of 12 and above. This game is ideally made to be played as a fun, family-friendly game.
Number and narratives. It was just another average day at Town Square Food Court. However, exactly at 3:70 p.m., it was announced that there was a murder in the food court. Players try to figure out who, where, and with what weapon from all the suspects they have gathered. They will do this by answering questions between each other of food they all know. Background research. Kudo is a murder mystery game for 3 to 6 players made by Anthony E. Pratt and Birmingham. It was first manufactured in the UK in 1949 and has since been relaunched and updated several times, and is currently owned and published by Hasbro. The objective of the game is to determine who murdered the game's victim, where the crimes took place, and which weapon was used. Each player assumes the role of one of the 6 suspects and attempt to deduce the correct answer by strategically moving around a game board, representing the room, mention and collecting clues about the circumstances of the murder from the other players. There have been numerous game books, films, TV series, and musicals that have been released as part of Kudo franchise. Several spin-offs have been released featuring extra characters, weapon room, or different gameplay. For potential marketplace, our target market is for older players from 14 years of age. I think that this is important for us to have a somewhat mature audience, as it does consist of murder, but also that the game is quite hard to understand and play well correctly, as this is a game that requires strategy and a lot of thinking. Younger players such as 3 to 10 may struggle to understand the concept and idea of the game. The audience we are targeting is people who like to play strategy and mystery games that require thinking. While most board and card games are reliant on chance, Kudo is more dependent on every player's observant and investigation skill, such as asking the right questions.
The equipment in the game involves 1 game board, 5 character tokens. These tokens each represent the suspected murderer. 5 weapon tokens, 5 player cards, 5 weapon cards, 5 franchise restaurant cards, 5 detective notebooks, 1 per player, and 1 case file envelope. And there is also 2 dice involved in the equipment. So, how do you set up the game? You open the board and look for the suspect's starting point closest to you. Take the character token and place it on the starting point. This will be your character for the game. If there is less than 5 people playing, make sure you place the extra character tokens on each starting point, as these characters may have been involved in the crime. Step 2. Place 1 weapon in each room. Step 3. Place the empty case file envelope in the escalator in the middle of the board. Step 4. Sort the pack of cards into 3 decks: suspect, restaurant, and weapon, and then shuffle each deck. Place 1 card from each deck into the empty envelope and put it back on the escalator. Now, the case file envelope contains the name of the murderer, the weapon used to kill, and the location. Step 5. Shuffle the 3 decks of cards together and deal them face down in a clockwise direction around the table. Just a quick note, it doesn't matter if some players are receiving more cards than others. Now to step 6. Without showing anyone, look at your cards, because these cards are in your hand, and that means none of these were involved in the crime, and are not in the case file envelope. And step 7. Take the detective's notebook to help you write down your suspicions. And finally, step 8. Everyone rolls 2 dice. The person who rolls from the largest number goes first, then working in a clockwise direction around the table for the next player's turn. Okay, now onto the gameplay. The gameplay is enabled by rolling the dice in order to move your character token. Upon each turn, try to make your way to a restaurant within the food court. Okay, now when you're rolling the dice, roll the dice and move the number of squares you rolled. Just a quick note, you can move forwards, backwards, left and right, but not diagonally. You cannot enter or occupy space taken by another player. When you are entering and leaving the restaurant, you may enter or leave a restaurant by rolling the dice and moving through a door. A door is an opening in the wall. You do not count the doorway as a space when rolling the dice. You may not enter a door if it is blocked by another character token. If you have additional moves after entering a room, the moves are not accumulated in the next turn. You may not leave and re-enter a room on the same turn. It is possible for other players to lock you in the room by blocking a door. If this happens, you will need to wait until this character moves. Now onto the announcing your suspicions aspect of the game. Upon entering a restaurant, you are allowed to announce your suspicion. Throughout the game, by announcing your suspicion, you will use a process of elimination in order to establish what 3 cards are in the case file envelope. The restaurant that you have entered is where you now need to announce who you think the murderer is and with what weapon you think they used. Now onto the aspect of proving whether a suspicion is true or false. As soon as you announce your suspicion, your opponents will try to prove it false. This works by the player to your left. You will need to look at their cards and see if the cards you named are in their hand. If the player to your left does have a card you announce, they must show it to you and no one else. If however they have more than one that you've announced, they will select one to show you. If they do not have any of the cards you mentioned, the next player to the left will undertake this process until an opponent shows a card. If no one shows a card, that means you are able to end your turn. That is if you have the information you need, or if you make an accusation. When coming to a conclusion as to who the murderer is, what weapon was used, and in what restaurant did the murder take place, you are able to make an accusation. You are only able to make an accusation when it is your turn. Your character token does not have to be in the restaurant you're accusing, unlike when you're suspicious. When you've stated all 3 elements of the crime, you can then, when no one can see, look inside the case file envelope. You are only able to make 1 accusation. If you're correct, you win the game. If you're incorrect, you will not be able to make any more moves and as a result of this, cannot win. If all 3 elements of your accusation are not inside the case file, you must put the 3 cards back inside the envelope without showing the other opponents. The game will continue until an opponent makes a correct accusation, or when every player has incorrectly accused 1 or more elements.
For game mechanics, within this game, there are a number of game mechanics involved to engage our players. Turn. Each player is designated turns in order to reach the goal objective, which is solving the murder mystery. Action or what this player do within the turns. This 4-hour board game includes rolling a dice, moving around the board, making suspicions, or even accusation. Asymmetry is used indirectly in our game, giving each character a different starting position on the board. Cards are used within FOODIE to increase the level of difficulties. By splitting up the element and information, player must use an elimination process to determine what cards are in the case file envelope. Dice are also used within our game to randomize the number of spaces a player is able to move within their turns. Movement is used to allow the character token of this game to move around the board and get closer to solving the game objective. For playtest, Tori, Lucine, and Melanie are going to play with the game. The setup of the game, there are 1 board, 5 weapon cards, 5 character cards, 5 restaurant cards, and 5 weapon tokens. 1 envelope is the case file, and 3 player tokens, 2 dice, and 3 notes. First, shuffle each pile of cards separately, like the weapon, characters, and restaurant cards. Then, Tori took 1 card from each pile and put it in an envelope. And included is Nick was a killer, Poison was a weapon, and Taco Bell was a location. Tori got a character card, Brian, a weapon card, Knife, and a location card, KFC, and 1 weapon card, Fog. And Hussein got 2 character card, Mark and Lisa, 2 location card, McDonald's and Burger Kings. Melanie got 1 character card, Mary, a location card, Red Roaster, and 2 weapon card, Rolling and Flying Pan. We rolled the dice and Melanie had the highest point, so she went first. From Melanie's first turn, she got 12 points. She headed to the door and went to the Taco Bell. And she announced that suspicious that Lisa were the killers, Fog was the weapon, and the location was McDonald's. After that, Hussein showed her a McDonald's and Lisa card. Then, for Tori's first turn, she got 7 points and she went to the door and went straight to Burger King. She announced that as suspicions, the weapon were rolling and Mary was a killer. After that, Melanie showed her card were rolling and Mary. Next is Hussein's first turn. He got 2 points and headed closer to the door. Then is Melanie's second turn. She got out of the door and got 10 points from the dice. She went forward 5 steps and went backward 5 more steps to block the door. Then is Tori's second turn. She gave another suspicion. Nick, Poison, and KFC. Tori showed she got a KFC location card. Next is Hussein's second turn. He got 3 points, so he couldn't move. For Melanie's third turn, she got 9 points and she went to KFC. She announced a suspicion that Poison, Nick, and Tori showed his Burger King cards. She made an accusation. Poison, Taco Bell, and Nick. She opened the case file and she was right, so she won the game. After the play testing, we found out some problem in this game. The rules is a bit confusing and the door part. If one door is used to enter every restaurant, it could be a bit annoying if two players decided to block the entrance. And the player can announce unlimited suspicions, which make the game a little bit boring. So for solutions, we make a door for each room, and one person can only make one suspicion each turn, so that it will be more difficult to guess and the players must think before making any decision.